Now, it wouldn't be TFP if we weren't trying to drop at least some knowledge along the way and talk about some interesting political stories coming out. And I always get curious about political priorities. And in this case, I'm looking at one of the dumb things that causes controversy every year. Okay. So the title of this article from Salon is "An Iowa Fight Over a Satanic Display Reminds Us Republicans Believe Free Speech is Only for Them."
Whoa.
And this is about basically a yearly issue that happens where the Christian right gets into beef with trolls from the left and from not even from the left, just trolls from the Satanic Temple, because the religious right likes to put up Christian images and statues in Capitol buildings.
Okay.
And the reason they're allowed to do that despite separation of church and state is because the Supreme Court created a loophole by arguing that as long as every group gets to have one, it doesn't violate the no establishment of religion clause. So if the Christians want to put up a statue, they can because everyone else is allowed. So the Satanic Temple's like, all right, then we're putting up some Baphomets. We're dropping some Lucifers in this bitch. And then they get mad about it. So it causes beef every year. So
it's hilarious. This goes on. This has
happened repeatedly throughout my adult life. But yeah, so quoting from the article, so he says, it's hardened into a ritual because both sides get something out of it. The fundamentalists get a chance to freak out and use this as evidence for their lurid conspiracy theories, claiming demonic forces are out to get them. The Satanists and their fans get a chance to remind everyone that Republicans are hypocrites who never really believed all that free speech talk. This year, the annual rite is playing out in Iowa, where the Satanists have antagonized the Christians with a goat's head wreath in the Des Moines Capitol building. So, you know, there's always a new image. There's always something new to fight over. But in this case, people keep pointing to all of the free speech arguments that were being made for all types of crazy shit during the Trump administration, how some of these people who are avid reporters of Trump are now like, take that statue down, you know? And it's like, I always find it interesting, but I also just think it's one of those things where it's a distraction from actual real issues that people could be arguing about and trying to resolve and trying to help. But instead, we got to have meetings in the state building over, you know, because some trolls put a statue of Baphomet up next to your 10 Commandments. Take the 10 Commandments down too. Take the Baphomet down, or you know, because that's what the Supreme Court said.
Resolve.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is the part though, right? That both sides get something out of it. So this circle of a joke continues.
And all they get out of it really is attention. It's just a game for attention. It's the most childish, petty nonsense. But that's a political issue as opposed to, I don't know.
Yeah, but see, the
roads.
Here's the thing,
fixing roads and shit.
It's a child and petty thing when we start to say like, oh, the temple of Satan is proving these guys to be hypocrites and morons with this stuff. You know, they're just unserious people. But for these people, putting their 10 Commandment plaque in a courthouse is the right absolute thing to do. It's like breathing air.
You think about
that's normal.
Yeah, they stand on business.
The new Speaker of the House is like on some heavy duty religious stuff.
Oh, God
on
sent
that.
him.
Like God sent me. He's the reason
God sent him. God sent Trump. God sent
he
Republicans.
Speaks in very theocratic terms. And so I just want to pull out a little more from this just to point out. As many people pointed out, Republicans have defended genocidal and violent rhetoric for years now under the guise of free speech.
Whoa.
Trump's unsettled calls for violence against his perceived enemies have led to an attempted murder of the husband of Rep. Nancy Pelosi, threats against government employees and even private citizens, and of course, the insurrection of January 6, 2021. Dehumanizing rhetoric against Black Lives Matter protesters and Great Replacement theory have led to mass murders, shootings, and conservatives crashing cars into protests.
Damn it.
But when liberals call for social media companies to curb ugly rhetoric using their legal powers to self-regulate, a chorus of right-wing whining about cancel culture erupts. We do not need to litigate how real the threat of campus anti-Semitism is in order to see how Republicans use tensions over hate speech and the First Amendment to advance their free speech for me, but not for the agenda. The satanic altar at Iowa State Capitol showcases the same GOP bad faith, but at least with some levity. So instead of pointing to all these really dark examples, this is like the dark example of, if you're going to do that whole my religion has to be here, then the people that are worshiping some shit that offends you, they also get to put their religious iconography up.
Yeah, they crazy shit up.
Yeah, it's what's embarrassing is, like we said, this is a cycle. It happens. It's how many times since you've been adults have we seen the
go back and forth?
And the sad part is their statues are way cooler.
Yeah, you know, they always got some cool badass looking creature.
They got some like head with a like half human body, half like freaking, I don't know, with horns sticking out of it.
I'm
So hold on, they put
movies.
this up at the church?
In the state building, Capitol building.
In the Capitol building, okay.
Yeah.
Basically, the church wants to put their monuments up.
Oh, okay.
And instead of recognizing, listen, this is not a place for religion, they made an exception and said, okay, you can put it here. It's cool. Anybody can put theirs up. So the Satan Church came over and said, anybody can put it up. Here's this big statue of Baphomet. And pissed them off. And they're like, you got to take that down. And they're like, we got to take it down. Then you got to take yours down. That's basically how this goes.
And all it was because, and it's just trolling because the Supreme Court just wanted to make a little excuse so that they could have their statues. And these guys were like, well, if you're going to do that, let's do this.
We're going ham with the statue.
Yes. It's a funny story.
It is. It's a lighter one, but
That's cool.
But then when I talk about priorities, I also want to talk about how there are other times where this pettiness and Supreme Court stupidity can cause real world issues that are very frustrating to hear about. So I did want to throw to your story that you've got about the Victory Fund.
This story was very interesting to me. I saw a post on Instagram or TikTok or something, and the story it jumped out at me, so I started researching a little bit onto it. And let me just jump right into it because this one is nuts. But check this out. The Fearless Fund suit is heating up in Atlanta's 11th Circuit. A panel of 3 appellate judges on Saturday temporarily blocked Fearless Fund from awarding its $20,000 Fearless Strivers grant to black women entrepreneurs as the lawsuit filed against it makes its way through courts. The American Alliance for Equal Rights, AAER, led by Edward Bloom, who was behind the efforts to overturn the affirmative action, sued Fearless Fund in August, alleging that its Strivers Grant program discriminates against non-black women. Judge Robert Luck and Andrew Brasher, both appointed by Donald Trump, agreed with the AAER, calling the grant racially exclusionary, and said it violated Section 1981 of the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which barred racial discrimination in contracts. But another judge, Judge Charles Wilson, who was appointed by Bill Clinton, dissented and criticized AAER for weaponizing the Civil Rights Act of 1866 as it was initially targeted to help the formerly enslaved. AAER fails as an organization, bringing a Section 1981 claim on behalf of white members, the inclusion of Asian business owners, while a racial minority does not cure the inclusion of white business owners, Wilson wrote in his dissent. So, very interesting case here. But this dude, Edward Bloom, who helped overturn the affirmative action cases with schools and stuff, he's the one going at this. And essentially what they're saying is that these black capitalists who want to pool this money to help these black business women grow, they can't do that because that's a racial thing now. Okay. It's racially biased against non-black folk. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? Is he correct? Does he have a point here? It's kind of against what the objective of this whole thing is, which is to help catch these people up from a system that had them held behind. So, by every right, I think they should be able to go ahead and do this. But do they have a leg to stand on with the counter?
Not really. I don't think so, just because I think the whole point of these regulations were to help these minority groups that had been discriminated against so that they couldn't continue to be discriminated against. There's no danger of discrimination against white people to get those sorts of loans, funds, or anything to get their businesses started. We see it in all the numbers, so we understand that white people don't have as much trouble getting loans as black people, or any other people of color. And, it has a range across those different, nationalities. But either way, having something that specifically supports people who there is still evidence of discrimination going on today, it makes sense to be able to do that. And I also think it makes sense that a couple of Trump judges would weaponize the Civil Rights Act in a manner like this.
Yeah, and, not for nothing, but on its face, when I look at it, I think this is a fucking asshole who wants to do everything he can to stop black people and minorities, probably in general, from having any help or benefit or advantage in anything, just to hold it back. And, that actually, that got me thinking about another story, which I had bumped into about some black neighborhoods that had run down buildings everywhere. And the specific story that I was watching at the time was the whole town was owned by like 2 or 3 different investors who happened to be white guys that didn't live there, bought up all those abandoned properties and left them like that, specifically intentional to keep that property value down for everyone else in the community.
That way
and
they
keep
could buy
the neighborhood looking like shit.
That way they could later buy the rest of the property. Is that
they made money off it somehow. I don't remember the mechanism, the way they did it, but it was completely intentional that they kept the community looking run down and trashed out. So.
Yeah, and then you see things like what they did, where they decided to run interstates through, or just examples from redlining is just every story of redlining. You could also find examples. Donald Trump and his father were literally pled guilty to discrimination against people of color with their housing.
It's like a smack in the face, right? To use the Civil Rights Act for this manner. So is it me? Am I taking this wrong? Terrible. Am I understanding this wrong? It seems like a smack in the face. But then that's why I was asking, do they have a leg to stand on?
And then there's this whole
I don't know.
If we make judgments, it has to be the original intention of the writers is one of the things they'll use when it comes to the original Constitution. But when something like the Civil Rights Act, which needed to be written in that time, when the intentions of that are obviously being mutated for their reasons, then that's fine now. I just think there's a weirdness in the way right-wing judges have handled everything for a while, and that goes back way before Trump appointees, but to just the Federalist Society. But either way, it's just a mess.
Exactly, man. It's just like myself, jhanboom. There's a lot of stuff going on in this topic, but one word that stands out: discrimination. jhanboom ain't with none of the discriminating. It's, for example, right, just to throw a little something in there, go right back to it. Right now in our cul-de-sac, we have a little bit of a situation going on because it is the
Christmas light sky, right?
The Christmas light sky. We are all contributing a little bit. Everyone on their house is putting Christmas lights on, making the cul-de-sac look real nice and Christmas friendly if you want to walk around the cul-de-sac. But this house to the left refuses to put lights on, even a little something. So
what if somebody offered to put up Christmas lights for them? Maybe
I
it's
think
like,
they just don't,
a dude with injury.
Now, how do you know, though, that it's not like a guy who does not celebrate Christmas?
Well, this is the thing. We don't know, but look, my house, right? Our crib, we don't want to be left out. Of the Christmas ornaments. We didn't used to have them before. My landlord said, you know what, man? Everybody doing it. He literally spoke to me. He said, you know what, John? Everybody's doing it. We should do a little something. I'm like, bro, whatever, man.
Do you?
So he started putting Christmas lights up in our house, in the crib. So when you pull up to the cul-de-sac, we can transition with the rest of the homes correctly. You know what I'm saying? Uh-huh. So this person should be aware of the cul-de-sac rules, but they're not applying.
They're not feeling the pressure.
They're not feeling it.
Do you feel discriminated against?
We feel discriminating, but it is their own rights. I can't go over there and tell them, hey, I bought you a box of lights, put your shits on.
I mean, are you a citizen?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, citizen boom.
Citizen boom. So just, a little something towards discrimination.
Yeah, maybe.
Listen. I don't know really how that ties into discrimination, but there is a way out of this, right? You wait till you see him drive away, and then you and your neighbor, you run over and you just light up his house.
Decorate
But
him out.
and then you put like surprise. We put up Christmas lights
From your loving neighbors.
The only problem with that, the next month they're gonna surprise us with their PSC&G bill and be like, "Surprise, pay half of this shit."
Could be.
But you know what it is? I am trying to grab him because the dude is a younger dude, and he always sees me in the front puffing it down. So when he sees me when he pulls up, he be like, "Yo, what's up?" So next time I see him pull up, I'm like, "Yo, why you ain't got no Christmas lights on?"
Yeah, you get a little something. It doesn't have to be big, right? He can just put out a little
Dan, I don't want to feel stupid and be like, he's like, "Yo, you know what we do? We usually put it up a couple days before so we can take it down." I'm like, "Damn." Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, look, I just came to get some lights," and then I feel like an asshole.
He pulls the box of lights out right there.
Yeah, like, what you mean? We was about to, and then, so we're going to see.
All right. Well, listen.
Sagas continue.
The drama out in Lodi needs to be known.
Christmas light stories are crazy. Discrimination is an issue. But this particular story for the Fearless Fund, I hope that this goes the right way and these ladies, these investors are allowed to help these other black business owners and invest in their own community.
Word.
There's plenty of investment outside of their community. They need it inside of their community. So I hope this goes through and works for them.
Hell yeah.
And with that said, let's let it ride.
So I got one more story. I want to bring some science into this.
Let's get it.
I found one that was crazy, kind of blew my mind, and also has already led to more research. So this is from UCL News. That's University College London News. Human brain cells in a dish learn to play Pong. A team of researchers at UCL put a culture of brain cells on a microelectrode array and got the brain cells to play a version of Pong. So a microelectrode array was I had to look that up. I'm not a scientist. I'm going to do my best to synthesize this. But it just looks like a little chip almost with little pokers sticking out. And I guess they put a culture of, let's see, we'll take it straight out of the article. In the experiment outlined in Neuron, researchers took 800,000 brain cells from both embryonic mice and human brain cells derived from stem cells. They then grew them on top of microelectrode arrays that could both stimulate and read their activity. Electrodes on the left or right of one array were then fired to tell a small number of neurons in the dish brain which side the ball was on, while distance from the paddle was indicated by the frequency of signals. Feedback from the electrodes enabled dish brain to learn how to return the ball by making the cells act as if they themselves were the paddle, and in consequence, moving the panel in their simulated world. So, this is some crazy-ish to me, but what makes it big in the discovery side of things is the fact that the dish brain, these cells are acting in a meaningful manner. There's a meaning behind what they're doing.
Yeah, so they're essentially playing ping pong, right, back and forth.
Yeah, they are playing ping pong in a petri dish. Just brain cells playing ping pong. So, just another quote. Although microelectrode arrays have previously been used to read the brain activity of cells, or the activity of brain cells, this is the first time that scientists have been able to use them to stimulate neurons in a structured way to produce responses that are realized in terms of meaningful behavior. So to quote Professor Carrie Friston, who worked on it, the beautiful and pioneering aspect of this work rests on equipping the neurons with sensations, the feedback, and crucially the ability to act on their world. So they're acting and getting a reaction. And one of the crazy things is they don't have the type of reward punishment sensors that a human or an animal would have, so you don't train them that way, but they're still managing to get these synapses to fire and react in certain ways.
That's crazy.
It's got big implications for potential studies and stuff. So reading from the article again, by building a living model brain from basic structures in this way, scientists hope to be able to experiment using real brain function rather than equivalent models made on a computer. So you don't have to use computer models of a brain to see what these reactions are. You also don't have to do animal testing or other types of testing on brain behavior to test drugs potentially. So Friston says the unique opportunity here is to see how the drug affects neurotransmission at a synaptic level, and crucially, how this translates into behavior. So what the article goes into is how, next time maybe they'll get it drunk and see how the ping pong game goes with drunk brain cells without, just purely on that. But they could also translate that to treatments for things like Parkinson's disease and test things in this Petri dish. Or it could expand that way.
I think what they should do, instead of getting it drunk, which is everybody's first inclination.
Wait, can we get this Petri dish drunk now?
I think they should take it out for a little sunning, maybe some grounding, a little morning breath work, possibly a cold plunge, and then see how it does with the Pong. Let's see what happens after that.
Sharp.
Doesn't sound bad to me.
That was one thing. It did get more efficient as it went along in the article. It gets better at making the Pong game happen too. So there's all these different weird signs. And this is a year old. This same research team came out with more stuff. They built almost the equivalent of a chip, and they're creating AI using these these brain dish chip things that they're creating. But it was so complicated that I just wanted to take my time and actually try to read it and see if I'm getting any of that right when I say it, because it sounds like that to me, but I'm not a scientist. I don't know neurons like that. And it just sounded crazy. But essentially, these things were recognizing auditory language was one of the things they mentioned. They could recognize different voices. I was like, how do they know it's recognizing things? What is going on? So I got to read the study on that one and see if I can kind of make heads or tails of any of it, or find somebody
This wasn't on The Onion, right? Or
nope, UCL, bro, University College London. And Neuron is a major publication, and I forget the other one was I think it was a Nature journal. So it was real academic journals producing this, which is why it got my attention. Like, what?
Very, very interesting story.
For the streets.
Now let's teach it to play Battleship next, perhaps.
Hey.
I wonder what else we can teach the Petri dish to play. And would you watch on TV, like sports, Petri dish battles?
Well, that's what I was going to say. As soon as you can start betting on these games, it's over.
The investment in Petri dish Pong.
Petri Pong.
Petri Pong is going to be the one. It is definitely going to be more entertaining than
Petri
the slap league, bro.
Whoa.
Petri Pong.
Yeah, and then
next level of sports.
This one was with rat stem cells. What if they include human brain cells and, ape cells? Does that change the equation?
Now we're getting aggressive.
I bet that doesn't work at all, but, scientists can explain it to me.
I don't know. What if, I'm just thinking, what if they use steroids or something?
Yeah.
Steroids, monkeys, drugs, man.
HGH,
we got fucking another Caesar.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our scientific scoop for the show.
Gotta get one of them in.
I think that's gonna be it. We're gonna wrap it up. And
you got 2 ticks? You got 2 seconds still on the program? I'm gonna throw a quick shout out.
That's right.
Pow, pow, pow.
Let's bring it back in.
Yo, I want to give a special shout out to my cousin, Domino's El Leader. He just dropped a new reggaeton tune. Man, this shit is hot. It's called It starts with a C, man. I forgot the name of it, but yo, the song is popping. Shout out to El Domino's El Leader, man. We got you, brother.
Yes,
Keep doing your thing.
There you go.
Good shit, bro.
TFP, the fan's perspective.